Hello, everyone. Welcome for another episode of the Puppet Podcast. I'm Caroline. I'm doing this podcast with a lot of passion. The purpose of it is to put attention towards the puppetry art and the passion of it. So tonight, I'm really glad that we will connect with those wonderful guests, Hallie and Frankie. We will talk about this wonderful show, Donkey Hodie. I can't wait to hear more about it, and it's so a pleasure to have people connecting with me. Also, I'm always happy to discover new puppeteers, and we have friends in common, and this is amazing. So just before we go into the interview, I want to invite you to check around to our Patreon community. We build a Patreon community to offer services, workshop, like some tools to promote your art, your stuff, because artists need to take the mic and the follow spot, because what we do is really important, especially right now. And yeah, so you can click on there and you will have a lot of tools. And we have a scoop because we will do an event and launch a book about tools with social media and communication, how you can live from your art. So this is a party we organize online on the 26th. So stay tuned to know more about it. So now publicity is done. Feel free to comment, to ask questions during the interview. And please drum roll so we can welcome in the screen, Holly and Frankie.
Hi.
Hey, thanks for having us on,
Yeah.
Caro.
Thanks for having us.
I'm so happy and excited. As you see, I'm really in the orange fluo. I really want you to help my community, our community, to know more about yourself. Both of you, just present yourself to the community who listen. Maybe don't know how you fall into puppetry. So maybe Hallie, could you start this?
Yeah, sure. Hey everybody. I'm Haley Jenkins, and I play Donkey Hodie on Donkey Hodie, puppeteer based out of New York right now. And I'm just really happy to get to talk about puppets. I'm puppetry with some like-minded people. Uh, yeah, I'm sure we'll get into it. Do you want me to go deeper? We can get back to it.
We
Go to
will go
Frankie.
deeper later. Yeah.
We'll talk about puppets at some point, right?
At some point, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Hi,
Frankie, how are you?
good. Thanks for having me. I'm Frankie Cordero. I'm a puppeteer, and on Donkey Hodie, I play Purple Panda and a few other side characters. The referee Penguin and Gregory the Elephant are a couple of those. I've been puppeteering for as long as I can remember, or at least interested in it for as long as I can remember. I grew up in Chicago, and I'm based here now again after being in New York for nearly 20 years. And we relocated back to work on the show and to be here with family.
That's awesome. I want to know more about this show also. It's so great. I feel you like it put together a lot of talent, but how it is to work on this piece, and could you talk about it a little?
Yeah. Yeah, we shoot it in Chicago at WTTW Studios. It's their PBS station there. And we started shooting in 2019, and we just wrapped season 1 in December of 2021. So it was a 2-year long season 1 shoot, which was crazy and cool. I don't know about you, Frankie. I've never worked in a show that was one season for 2 years.
Yeah, it was probably originally planned to be a little less, but we had some world complications and
Yeah.
a couple shutdowns. But also the show's the sort of production that involves a lot of practical effects, which means a lot of building of set pieces and new puppets, and every prop is tailored for and designed for the puppets. We can't really store buy a lot of these things because they're art directed. So we are naturally on a 2 weeks on, or sometimes a 2 weeks on, 3 weeks off schedule to do pre-production for the next episode. But
Mm.
yeah, we're gearing up for season 2 now. It's been fun. It's been especially neat working at the WTTW studio, because that's the flagship PBS station here in Chicago, and that's the channel that I grew up watching. Fred Rogers, I grew up watching Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood on that channel, and I remember going to some events, and my dad would work doing telethons there back when that was their way of fundraising. And Sesame Street, of course. So it's a dream come true. It's one of those dreams that's so specific that I couldn't really dream it up, but I get to drive to work and live in the city with my family and drive to work, just a few minutes to work on this amazing show. And it's been great.
That's very cool. And if you want just like a nutshell version of what the show is, it's excuse me, it's a collaboration between Fred Rogers Productions and Spiffy Pictures. And it's based off of characters from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, from the neighborhood of make-believe. Some of the lesser known characters like Donkey Hodie, Purple Panda, Bob Dog, Harriet Elizabeth Cow, and many others, and lots of new characters too. And it all takes place in someplace else. And the idea is that that Fred Rogers came up with is if a kid is being loud or playing loud or whatever, a parent would often say like, go play someplace else. Go someplace else. And so this is someplace else. This land is that place where anything's possible. And yeah, it's fun. It's all puppets. There's no humans on our set at all. There's no humans. No humans on our show. Yeah, great.
This is amazing. I'm so happy to meet people who do TV stuff also, because we know puppetry is really diversifies as a medium, is on TV, on theater, but I want to hear you on that, on the why you cherish that art form, and maybe the TV aspect influence it for you. But why do you cherish this art?
I think I've cherished it for longer than I could realize why I did in the first place. It just caught me, and it's interesting you brought it up in terms of TV, because that was one of my first exposures to puppetry was watching the characters on the Muppet Show. And I didn't necessarily see them as puppets, and it didn't immediately get me interested into puppetry, but I was just more interested in them as characters, and they were just that believable. Their performers brought them to life to the extent where I was interested in knowing more about them and tuning in to see more. But then a lot of my exposure to puppetry happened pretty quickly around the same time. I was about 3 years old, and my parents saw my interest in puppetry, and they would take me to see live puppet theater shows in Chicago. There was a theater named Animart Puppet Theater that did primarily marionettes and some hand puppet shows as well. Histopolis Puppet Theater. There was Opera and Focus that would do miniature full-scale operas. And also I grew up in a family with a clown. My dad was a clown since I was 6 years old. So my entire childhood was filled with clowns and ventriloquists and magicians and puppeteers. So, it's hard to pinpoint what initiated it all, but it all happened pretty quickly.
Wow, this is so interesting to grow up and have artists in your family. It's really it's a chance also. It's influenced your career, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was fun. I would sometimes help my dad out with his shows, and he would assist me on mine. And, sometimes my father tells me that he was drawn to performing he was influenced by me. So I guess he saw that interest in me, and that kind of drew him into it as well. So,
wow.
Yeah.
So cool. And you, Holly?
Yeah, so I guess my first real exposure to puppetry, one of my earliest memories is doing shadow puppets with my mom and my dad set up a sheet and the light, and we were doing shadow puppets. I was maybe 3 years old. I'd say it's just one of the first things I can remember of my life was that and just the magic of that. But also I definitely grew up not being aware at all that puppetry was a career. It just never even crossed my mind. It just didn't. But I knew that all the things that I loved to play with were either puppets or stuffed animals that, you can bring a stuffed animal to life as if your hand is inside it just by shaking it, and doing your voices and everything. But yeah, I'd say that as far as TV puppetry goes, for me, the first time that I think I realized, oh my gosh, puppetry is a career, is when Jurassic Park came out. I was about 10 years old, and there was a special on TV that was all behind the scenes of how Jurassic Park was made. And when I saw that giant T-Rex in the rain, it just changed my life. Honestly, I saw it. I was like, wait, that there are people controlling that. I want to do that. I want to control a dinosaur. Someday, that is a career goal. Someday I got to control a dinosaur. Frankie's gotten to do it on Walking with Dinosaurs. But yeah, that was really my exposure to it, I'd say. But besides the holy trinity of puppetry, which was Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, Sesame Street, and Lamb Chop, that was my trinity of puppetry. But yeah,
this is great, and I want also to hear you on the in your opinion, the best field of study to become a puppeteer. As we talk, it's a career. Is it better to start with acting or to do like building, or how you define the field of study?
It's an interesting question because when I think back, I was doing a lot of acting and theater and visual art before I got into performing puppetry, like semi-professionally at least, because I started doing shows in Chicago, when I was in my early teens, and I'd already been acting, but I wasn't necessarily trying to work through any specific path. I was just truly doing what I was interested in. So there are many ways to go about it. There are universities that offer puppetry courses. I did end up going to the University of Connecticut, but a lot of the performance that I do, I consider to be self-taught. Really, the way that I got into it was that it was a lot of play. It was my obsession with the art form. I couldn't not do it. So I felt like there was no way around it. I would practice. It was play, but it ended up being practice for years on end. And like Haley said too, for a long time, I didn't realize it could be a career or that it would lead to a career. I was just kind of playing with what I liked and continuing to create my own shows. But luckily now, for people who want to tap into it a bit more quickly, there are a lot of online courses and there are a lot of resources out there. I was lucky that when I was younger, there were maybe a handful of book titles that were thrown around. And one of them was Of Muppets and Men by Christopher Finch, the making of the Muppet Show.
Got that on my shelf behind me somewhere.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah, it's a great one.
A few feet down that way. It's a great book. And I remember watching the Muppets celebrate Jim Henson. And in the post credits, Gonzo mentions a couple of books that you could check out from the library to learn more about the Muppets. And I was just lucky that when I went to check out the book, that the librarian happened to be a puppeteer as well. And she introduced me to the Chicagoland Puppetry Guild. And that opened up a lot of connections. And but really, in the end, I feel like if it's something that you love doing, you're going to end up doing it. If it's a deep passion, there's no getting around it, really.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I totally agree with that, Frankie. Like, once you get bitten by the bug, you're just going to find yourself buying puppets and playing with them. For me, something that really served me well was that I have a background in musical theater. I went to school at Point Park University in Pittsburgh for musical theater. and just theater training. I think that, when it comes down to it, when you're puppeteering, you're creating a character, and so acting is really the kind of the most I'd say the most important thing of if that's a style of puppetry that you're doing, if you are voicing and creating a character, then acting is kind of number one. I would say also something else that's been really helpful, even though it's something I am not good at, is dance training. I always danced growing up. I was always in dance classes. I have regained none of those skills, or regained, or I retained none of those skills, or regained them. They never came back. But yeah, just
you can dance very well from here on up, though.
Thank you.
Truly.
I'm gonna thanks. I'm gonna hold on to that. That's what I'll just keep telling my mom. But definitely just having coordination in your body is important, but it's something that you can learn. It's like, I'm not born with the ability to play the piano. Like, I have to really pay attention to two hands. I can't just do two different things at once. But you can really hone those skills with coordination, body coordination, and dance classes can teach you to be aware of your body and your space, which is the most important thing when you're puppeteering in someone else's armpit on a set, is to know yourself spatially.
Yeah,
it's very helpful.
That's so true. Dance, acting, and to build also. And it's funny how every puppeteers have his own opinion, and I feel we connect on that. And do you feel our art, like puppetry, is in an ascension, is getting more popular in your observation, or is it the same towards the years?
I'm going to jump in on this one. I think it's getting way more popular again. It definitely goes through cycles. But right now, and I'm sure that the last, I don't know how many people you've interviewed since The Mandalorian came out, but I'm sure that a lot of them have mentioned the popularity of Grogu, or Baby Yoda. He's a real puppet, and he is the most popular Disney character out there. You just see him on everything. And I don't know that it would be the same if he was CG. I don't know that people would feel that. So yeah, I think that people are really, really responding to things that exist in the world, and you could go somewhere and touch it if you wanted to. And I'm seeing a lot more of that.
It's nice that it's out there more in the mainstream, and that there's seems to be a larger variety of productions that are utilizing it, for sure. But I feel like I keep hearing that it's a dying art form over the entire course of my personal career. But it seems to be pretty steady.
Yeah, it's funny how it's the perception around instead of what we observe. That's why I love to ask this question. And you live from this art form, so this is kind of you are a living thing who can say that this is true.
There's a lot of. Oh, go ahead, Frankie.
Oh, I'm just thinking, that's part of what's great about Donkey Hodie right now, is that, here we are this many years later, and we're still really playing with the basics of puppetry. I mean, these are, we do add some video effects and some CGI embellishments, but it's still, it's still basic puppetry, and it's the classic way of performing hand puppets, and I think it still works.
Yeah, definitely. And also, there's a lot of puppet stuff being shot right now, at least since, I don't know if it's just that it's since the pandemic, but it seems like in the past couple of years, all of a sudden there's a lot of stuff being produced, and it's really encouraging, and it's all doing well.
Yes, I love to hear that. And I want to hear you on your purposes as an artist, as a puppeteer. Do you have a goal, something you want to achieve? And it could be with the show or in your personal career. What is the envision for the future?
Jurassic Park, definitely. I've got to
One
do
of
a
the
Jurassic
sequels.
Park.
Yeah.
They said that this is the final sequel that just came out. In 15 years they're gonna do another set.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure. So that's
Is there a
the
lot of
goal.
puppetry in the more recent or in the last one? Is there?
No.
Oh, there's not. Yeah.
I think that there are puppeteers in the credits, but I think that most of
They were
it, I
holding
think that they
tennis balls on sticks for
yeah,
rehearsals, maybe. Yeah.
exactly. But maybe by then that ascension of puppetry, maybe it's gonna come right back and we're gonna have some real life dinosaurs again.
Yeah.
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 And you,
So
Frankie, do you have a goal, something you want to achieve?
I honestly just want to. I would love to just keep performing. I'd love to
Yeah.
keep performing and keep directing. I feel like, eventually I'd love to have my own production. But I'm just grateful to be busy with what I'm busy with right now. I think, I kind of I still feel the same way that I did when I first started this, which was that I love doing it and I just wish to continue doing it. I may not always know where it's going to lead next, but I've been very happy with where it's been going.
Yeah, it's a good humility at the same time to just say to be satisfied and keep going. And yeah, I really like this. And where do you see the art form in 10 years if we see the future?
well, I hope its popularity just continues to grow. Um, and something I really hope is that, a lot of the work for puppeteers right now gets replaced with CG in the final edit. As far as for a lot of films, I know that happened, with the some of the recent Ghostbusters films that came out. They had puppeteers, but the whole thing is to hold the tennis ball or to hold, like or not hold, but to puppeteer an object that will be eventually replaced with CG. And I know that as puppeteers, it's not very satisfying to know that your work is going to be replaced, even though it is an incredibly helpful tool to have you there. So I really hope that starts to become more practical puppets again, like so for some of those bigger productions. Like it can only add good things to movies if they do that.
Yes. And you, Frankie?
I don't want to say that I hope it holds steady, because of course I hope that there are new innovations in puppetry, but I truly do feel that some of the strongest connections that I've seen from children or adults are from these simpler puppets, like the ones that we're using at Spiffy Pictures and the ones that we use at Sesame Street, the ones that we're using on Donkey Hodie. I'm biased because I'm watching my own kids watch the show, but they're incredibly connected to those characters. And they don't even necessarily always make the connection that it's me that's working on the show, but I still think they don't have that connection yet. But they're very engaged, and I think it's from the fact that there's such a strong emotional base to those characters. And they are characters that appear to be ones that they could actually reach out and hold if they wanted to. So, I mean, I feel like there have been some enhancements with electronic puppetry. When Haley was mentioning the dinosaur puppetry show that I worked on before, I mean, it's kind of unbelievable that it even existed. We carted around 20 semi trucks full of animatronic, life-sized dinosaurs, fully realistic film quality animatronics that they would usually use on film sets that weren't meant to be used for that many performances. But that was such a feat in itself. And that was something that was 10 years in the making at the time until we actually hit the stage. It took a lot of upkeep, but we were basically manipulating these 3-ton characters in real time and having them walk around and breathe steam from their nostrils and blink and be very alive. So I'm not sure if I would want too much more realism with puppetry on top of that, because then it just turns into a sort of different beast. But I just hope that a lot of the classics will retain throughout the years.
Yes, so interesting. And we have like fans who watch. We have a Kelly who say love Donkey Hodie, yeah, and yeah, people watching from Vermont, right? and yeah, those three shows. Oh, we have a lot of
Oh,
comments.
cool.
So
Oh, that's great.
Oh, great.
all right.
That's so cool.
So
Yeah.
great.
Oh, thanks
Yeah.
for sharing those.
Yeah, I want to maybe we don't talk about that at the beginning before the interview, but you have maybe something around you want to share with us about the show, a puppet or an object, something could like put visual on what we just discussed.
I have something I bought off of Etsy. I find all the donkey stuff on
That's
Etsy
cool.
that I can, and I take it
That's nice.
home because it just makes me so happy. I don't call this Donkey Hodie though. I call it Ponky Dodie because it's a little different. So
She's close. She's pretty close.
She's pretty close, but it's more. Hey guys, I'm Ponky Dodie. It sounds nothing like her, but
This is interesting. Yeah, go for it, Frankie.
Yeah,
I have a this is actually one that I built some of the side characters and one-off puppets for the shows, and so I have this one that I'm doing some refurbishing work on, and this is the Maestro.
Yeah.
So this is we have a pink mouse and a blue mouse that have been I feel like I'm moving this microphone as if I'm going to start a ventriloquist act or something, but I'm not going to do that.
I will put you
we
big,
have
big there.
Yeah.
We
So
are
this is,
around.
while you're talking.
This is so we have a blue mouse and a pink mouse that get dressed up as different characters, and the Maestro is actually in the newest batch of Donkey Hodie episodes that just premiered last week. The episode Bongo Olympics, where Panda's training in the Bongo Olympics, and Maestro's there to help him keep time. But this is just a simple rod puppet with a string for the mouth, and she's got her baton here, and I'm just going to do some cleanup work on her and do some work on her mouth a bit. But this is a puppet from the actual show. Just happened to have that right over here.
And I also build puppets for the show. Mine are really lifelike. This is actually a new character. My hands aren't even inside him, and he's still moving that well.
Animatronics.
Yeah. It's all animatronic. I've got a whole team of puppeteers sitting over there. There's like 8 different remote controls. It's really, it's very advanced.
Probably simplify that a little bit.
Probably, but I mean, why simplify something that's so good?
Yeah, and how it is to do at the same time the voice and of your puppet. How you must be busy.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah. Well, as far as doing the voice of Donkey and everything, it's been great. Even we've been on hiatus since December, but we've had a lot of stuff going on. They sent me the Donkey puppet, and I got to film some stuff from home, which is really cool. It was just fun to have Donkey here and at home. It was weird. But great. And we got to do the Easter egg roll, the White House Easter egg roll with Donkey.
Yeah, that was really fun.
Yeah,
we were lucky to be invited to the White House a couple times over the last year. We did their Christmas event, and so that was nice because we had been working in such a bubble and a literal bubble because of the pandemic, and it was nice to actually have those puppets out to meet real children and to actually meet them face to face and get some real-time reactions. And even through the pouring rain, we did so many shows in the pouring rain and 30-something degree weather on Easter Day, and still the crowd stuck the entire thing out, and they were dancing and singing along. So that was really cool.
It was really cool. Yeah, it's great because being on a set, I think there's an assumption that since we do children's media, we must work with children all the time. And that's not really generally the case. We work for children. A lot of the things that we create are for kids, but we don't often get to really interact with them unless it's somebody that's gotten to come visit set. But yeah, that was really the first opportunity we got to take the characters from Donkey out into the real world, and it was awesome. It was so fun.
And going back to what you were mentioning, Caroline, about doing the voices live, it's become second nature for Haley and I to do those, when we're doing it on camera, to voice our own characters. But we have times where we might have a couple of different I play a couple different characters, and I'm sometimes throwing the voice. So sometimes there is a lot of doing maybe a couple pages of dialogue that's all me, and I'm just trusting my my stand-in, who's usually Mel Campbell, another puppeteer on the show, to catch those. So that can be challenging sometimes. But then also when we did the Easter egg roll, singing live is also sometimes a challenge. Singing live with puppets in the cold as well.
It's like,
for,
it was
8
like
minutes
1
straight.
degree over freezing.
Yeah, it gets to the point sometimes where he was just shaking because you just can't move your thumb anymore.
Yeah.
So interesting. This is amazing, and we have a lot of comment coming as we show dogs.
Thanks, Jakey.
Yeah,
He thought it was real.
We have Mel who say
Mel.
Fids. Yeah,
Yeah,
this is
that's
on
Fritz.
season
More
2.
Fritz in season 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the dog makes good. And yes, both of you have a good audience around, so this is so cool. Thank you everyone for those wonderful comments. It's so great, and thank you Frankie and Holly took the time to share your passion and just explain a little bit more of your work and make people understand it more.
Yeah,
Sure,
it's been a
thanks for
pleasure.
having us.
Yeah, thank you. This was awesome. It was so nice to finally meet you.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for having us on.
This is so cool. I wish you good luck for the rest of the shooting and a lot of good adventure with those characters and more in the future.
Thanks. We're excited to get back in there soon.
Yeah, and I just want you to plug, if people want to reach you or the show, where they should look or where they should search for you on social media. Or
well, pbskids.org and the PBS Kids video app has all the episodes.
Yeah.
And
Donkey Hodie's on all of the social networks. And then I mostly have my work up at Instagram, which is, you see my name there. It's just at that name, no space, at Frankie Cordero on Instagram.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we will reach you. So stay in the virtual studio. We chat after this. I will push you out of the screen.
Perfect.
But thank you so much. Everyone say bye to Holly.
Thanks, guys. Thank you
so much.
Bye. And thank you everyone for watching. This is amazing. Puppetry is a lot of passion, and let's just be contagious. Oh, this is not the good word. Okay, let's just be all over the place. So I wish you to stay safe, but to just be in motion with art. So this is the secret. Here is again our Patreon. If you want to know more about the podcast, what we do and what we have to offer, all is there. And I want to also invite you again for this virtual event that we do, all the Puppet Podcast community, for the launch of the Living from Your Art book that we will release at the end of June. So yeah, stay tuned for other episodes. We have plenty of stuff in the future with different puppeteers in French, in English, and maybe in other language from other parts of the world. So yeah, have a nice evening, everyone. And stay tuned for other Puppet Podcast episode. Bye-bye.